So far, we have been making quilts of square and rectangular shape, but one quilt at a time. However, Optimus Quilt sometimes gives orders for blocks that are multiples of a given block. For instance, Optima got an order of a block that was exactly twice as big as the rectangular block that has a side that is 1 inch longer than the basic side X and one side that is 3 inches longer than the basic side X. So actually, this is still one quilt. However, they're saying, here's my basic X squared, but we're going to add 1 inch this way and 3 inches this way. And so if you think about it, that is one quilt with an X plus 1 and another quilt with X plus 3, but they don't want that quilt. They want a quilt that's twice as big as that. So this, but twice as big, and that'll be their quilt. So one way to write that would be to say we have a quilt that's X plus 1 times X plus 3, but we want double that fabric, twice as big. If you were to multiply this out, you would get, and I'm just going to leave the 2 in the front for a minute, X times X is X squared, 3 times X is 3X, 1 times X is 1X, and 1 times 3 is 3. So that would give us X squared plus 4X plus 3, which would be this, X squared plus 1, 2, 3, 4X's plus 1, 2, 3. But we have 2 of them, so really that's 2X squareds, right? 1, 2, plus 8 X's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, plus 6 ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so what I want you to see is it's the same way to write the area of the quilt, but you had to put a 2 in front of it because we wanted the one quilt twice as big. You could write it this way or this way. Okay, here's another version. Oh dear, this order was scrambled and the pieces are shown. Put the pieces together to make a rectangular block and write 2 equivalent expressions for the area of the block. Now, I want to go back to the previous one. This is one quilt twice as big, but they also could have cut it up and said, you know what, I want 2 quilts, this one and this one, and it's 2 quilts or one quilt twice as big. So you can look at it either way. Okay, so here, this is what Optima got. You will have to change your picture a little bit to look at it. This is what she got in the mail, and they're saying, could you make this into 3 quilts? Well, we sure could, because there are 3X squareds. Again, you could make it into one quilt 3 times bigger, but in this case, it's actually for 3 quilts. And I'm going to unhighlight this, and you'll see, here's my X squared, right here, 1 quilt, 2 quilts, 3 quilts. Okay, ignore the little lines through it. And then in order to get this, there are 15 X pieces. Well, if we want to break it into 3 quilts, 15 times 3 means each quilt needs 5 X's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be for one quilt. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's for the next quilt. Oops, that goes with that one. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's for the third quilt. And then lastly, if we have 18 little ones, we would need 6 for each quilt. So 6, 6, 6. And what it's asking you to do is to now write 2 expressions for that. Well, again, let's look at it. This is an X plus 2 and an X plus 3 quilt. So area is X plus 2 times X plus 3. We actually had 1, 2, 3 of those quilts. So that is the area. Or you could say, if you wrote it in the not the length times width form, that we have 1, 2, 3 X squareds. We have 15 X's and 18 ones. So again, it's just showing you how you could have a quilt 3 times bigger, it would be the same amount of fabric, or 3 quilts this size, and how you would write that. Okay, so let's look just at a couple more of these. Optima has a lot of new orders. Using the diagram to help you find the equivalent expressions for each of the following. So here, notice, it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5x squareds, and then they had 10 x's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay? And it's actually 5 quilts, but if you think about it, it's one quilt with a length of x plus 2 and a width of x. So it would actually be 5 quilts that have a length of x times x plus 2. Similarly, if we did this one, okay, it's 2x squared, so 2 quilts, and it says plus 2x. Well, they are going to add 2 x's to this side, but subtract an x from this side. So of those 3 x's, this one and this one cancel out, and you're just left with 1x, but we have 2 of those, so that's why we have 2x, and then we'd actually be missing these 2 pieces right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, so minus 4. And I'm going to skip over the rest of these because I don't think the picture is that important. Instead, let's look down here. Because she is a great business manager, Optima offers her customers lots of options. So again, up here, notice there were 3 quilts, 2 quilts, 2 quilts, 5 quilts, okay, different pictures for it. But here's one again, like I said, that's just 1 quilt, okay. One option is to have rectangles that have side lengths that are more than 1x. For instance, Optima made this cool block. Let's think about it. It has 2x squareds, 1, 2, 3 x's, and 1. And there's no way to break this one up into 2 separate quilts. So the question is, what is the expression for this? And it is x plus 1 on this side, and 1, 2x plus 1 on this side. And I'm going to leave you to write the other version. A of x equals blank x squared plus blank x plus blank. Here we have some partial orders. We have one of the expressions for the area of the block, and we know the length of the sides. Use a diagram to find the length of the other side and write a second expression for the area of the block. Verify your 2 expressions for the area of the block are equivalent using algebra. So again, I want to show you, here we go. Here's the long version, like you need to write right here, the multiplied out version. And we are saying that we have 2x squareds, 1, 2x squareds, 7 x's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 x's, and 3 ones. How could we write the area of this quilt using the length times width formula? Remember, area of x equals length times width. Well, they're already telling you the width is x plus 3. So I want you to write in the length. Go ahead and do that now. Right, it would be x plus 1, so 2x plus 1, and that would be equivalent to this one. And if you were to multiply it out, you would see that. Please do that for B. All right, so the thing is, we won't always have pictures, and that's kind of why I skimmed through some of the other pictures. When you have more than one quilt, or a quilt that's 3 times bigger, 4 times bigger, 5 times bigger, we actually have to use these steps. And this is the second most important thing that you'll do. The first most important thing you were doing was figuring out how to factor it when A was 1. Now we need to know how to factor when A is not 1. And luckily you get to keep these steps for all of your assignments and tests. Please follow along. This is super important. So I'm going to skip to B because it's a good example. So first step is A times C. 2 times 15 is 30. And just like before, we're going to go to our 100 number sheet and say, okay, what multiplies to make 30? And these are my options: 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. And just like before, I want to figure out what multiplies to make A times C, so 30, but adds to make B, in which case negative 13. And if I look really carefully, I think it's going to be some combination of 3 and 10. Now, since this number is a positive, I know both signs of the numbers have to be the same based off of what we talked about before, but let's check it. So I'm going to say, what if I did 3 plus 10? Because I know 3 times 10 is 30. Well, that makes a positive 13, and I want a negative 13. So what if I did, now I said the signs had to be the same, but if you're not sure, you could check it. 3 plus negative 10. Oh, that's negative 7. How about negative 3 plus positive 10? That's 7. That doesn't work. So what about negative 3 plus negative 10? That is negative 13. That works. And so make sure you're using your calculator to help you check. And then one more check, negative 3 times negative 10, because they both things have to happen, is positive 30. So there's our positive 30 and a negative 13. So our answers are negative 3 and negative 10. Normally we would be done and we'd be able to write the answer right here. We don't actually need this spot. This was just here for something else, so go ahead and ignore that. We have to keep going. So our next step says split B and add parentheses. So I'm going to split this like that and rewrite it to say 2x squared minus 3x, and I could put the 10 here if I really wanted to, plus minus 10x plus 15. So again, I could have put a 10 here and a 3 here and it would still work. Doesn't matter the order in which you write them. It says to split B and add parentheses. And I haven't actually changed my equation because negative 3x plus negative 10x is negative 13. You always have to have a plus in the middle to make this work. And so we're just rewriting it because now we can do the greatest common factor. So we could go back to our sheet and say, what did 2 and 3 have in common? And it turns out the only thing that they have in common is a 1. And they both also have an x. Remember, you pick the variable and you use the one with the smallest exponent. And so now we're going to divide. 2 divided by 1 is 2. X squared divided by x is x. Negative 3 divided by 1 is negative 3. And x divided out an x is none. Now let's look at negative 10 and 15. Again, go to your chart. Negative 10 or 10 and 15, the biggest number they have in common is a 5. So I'm going to take out a 5, and I'm actually going to take out a negative 5 because the goal is to have this piece match what's left in this piece. And if we didn't take out the negative would stay inside and they wouldn't match. So negative 10 divided by negative 5, please feel free to use your calculator or your chart, because if you used your chart, you'd see that the 5, oh sorry, we're at the 10, but the 2 and the 5 go together. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. Negative 10 divided by negative 5 is 2x. Negative 15 divided by negative 5 is negative 3. And we know we did it right because the 2 yellow pieces match. So that was step 3. And actually, splitting it up was step 4. I should have done that in blue, taking out the greatest common factor. So this whole step should have been in blue. Finally, we are done in that it says to rewrite it, take what's the same and put it in parentheses because really we're factoring this part out. And then now that we've done that, what's left goes here, 1x minus 5, and you are done. So before we only had to do these 2 steps and we were done, but if there's a number in the front, we have to do all 5. Good luck on your homework.